Hello and welcome back to the Soul Pathway podcast. Today, within this conversation, we are going to be talking about psychosensory healing, kindness, and love. I'm really excited about having this conversation today, and I'm here with a man called Dezs Greensoul, and he does some incredible work with matrix reimprinting, energy healing, and much, much more. But before I tell you more about him myself, let's introduce him. Hello, Des.
Hey up Andy, how are you doing?
Very good. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Can't complain, mate. Like I said earlier, two hands, two legs, all good.
Definitely. So,
ah,
what I always love to start off with is people's journey. Like, what led you into this field of matrix reimprinting and
yeah,
energy healing and work? Because I know you've got quite a backstory, haven't you? So,
yeah. Well, so what I do, Andy, is EFT, so emotional freedom technique. So the tapping,
yeah.
matrix reimprinting, which changes the subconscious beliefs, and like I say, you probably already aware we operate from 95 to 99% of our waking lives through the subconscious mind of the programs, and those were all in place by the age of 6-7 years old. We can even start taking in those programs, in the third trimester of birth, so, and I've done quite a lot of room work with a lot of women, as well, going back into that space and time, and again, re-imprinting and healing that time, because again, for a baby being born and for the mother as well, even if it's the most perfect birth, it's still a traumatic event, especially for a baby being, all lovely and warm and comfy inside of it, and all of a sudden, without much off your pop, God love and bless. So there's that. But it's one which we'll touch upon later, which is havening, which is I've just come into, and I'm going to be mixing the two. So it's going to be a mix of EFT and a mix of havening, which together is just it makes my soul happy. It does. So going back to like you're saying, really, well, this whole journey to where I am now started, well, in childhood, seeing the
Yeah.
neurological landscape, and absolutely love and adore my mother to bits. But in that point, and in that space and time, she was struggling, and again, back in the 80s and so she was just so it was an interesting childhood, a lot of stuff going on in the house, and we'll put it like that, and a lot of people can relate to that kind of a thing.
Definitely.
So fast forward to 17. And without even realizing it was an escape, I was leaving school, and I did 6-7 months bricky labouring work. Absolutely loved it, because I lived up in Yorkshire, so it's nothing but dry stone walls, cows, sheep, and horses. Absolutely bloody love it. I'm not a city lad, I tell you that much.
So good. So
So
good.
I ended up joining the army at 17, not long after my 17th birthday, and then obviously went in and came out just shy of 17 years later with PTSD. So I couldn't, in a somatoform kind of effect going on. So I couldn't walk, couldn't speak, and I couldn't sleep. So I'd spend like a week, like literally over a week awake at a point at a time. But I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation. I wouldn't be able to literally. It's funny. It was almost like, when big heavy energy waves come in, there's big geostorms or solar flare coming in, and it's just like overhead, almost like a fishbowl,
Yeah.
just closes everything in. So literally, if you tried to pick me up, I'd collapse. So it's all that kind of good stuff for a good number of years after I came out of the army in 2015. But so the transition started in 2013. So as I was coming out, I met a wonderful woman called Elisa. We was together, we just moved into a home because she lived in part of North Yorkshire. We moved over to West Yorkshire, where I was from. Side of a hill, beautiful. It was beautiful. We had cows. It was just lovely. Went out. So we'd been there 4 months. Moved in April 1st. Come August the 1st, she'd passed away. God love and bless her in her sleep. So
Mhm.
for the second time I'd actually been out whilst I was there, I went out and met my brother. Came back. We were talking all the way through the night. Come back. Brought a pizza back, bought just chocolate and wine before I went out, made sure everything was nice and settled, and she had the kids with her, so obviously can't bring the kids to the pub, and bless them, they're both autistic, God love and bless them, so yeah, so come back and woke up and she had a habit of falling asleep on the sofa. Anytime, so if you leave her a note, or if I could wake her up, we'd up upstairs. But not, when I woke up, there was only one part left in the body, was in the armpits. So I tried to bring her back, and then obviously that never happened. So yeah, that's interesting. An interesting. I think that was really the beginning. Because God love and bless her. So I was talking to her when I was in the kitchen. As I'd imagine many people do. Probably not to Lisa because that'd be strange, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
But one of her blue glittery pencils was on the table, big farmhouse table that we got, and 5 times that way, it rolled 5 times that way, and again, knock Bruce said nothing. Nothing was there to knock into it, so just boom, 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 boom. And that was coming from a very in the army, drinking, taking the mick out of everything, going 3 times in Iraq, Kosovo, Bosnia, twice in Afghan, Northern Ireland, which isn't the nicest place in the world. Straight to any Northern Irish people, but and again, I was born in Galway, you know what I mean? So, but it was like, whew, anyway, away from that. So it's really my partner of today, God love and bless her, that, as I was, because I went, did for Tony Robbins, Unleash Your Power Within, and was going down the personal development side of things, but I wasn't getting it. Not getting it, but I was sinking, if you know what I mean. Especially before I met the partner, I was, if everything what I was trying to do, trying to scrape out the quicksand, I was going.
Yeah.
So it's really the partner of today who's, quite a beautiful, spiritual, lovely, blooded person, God love and bless her. But I went right over to the left, you know what I mean? I say I've got books upstairs worth 300 quid, and it's, it's all well and good, but we're meant to be here. We're incarnated on earth to be humans, to have these experience, to be able to feel, sense, touch, to feel, and again, increase the consciousness of the planet whilst we're here. God love and bless her. So it's recently just been, past few years, bringing it back into here, but it was it must have been a Sunday or Monday, where there's a soul friend, it just rumbled up a lot of unresolved anger, that was in there. And again, that's way up at a 10. It's in the fingertips, it was in the hair. It's like, so I've been reading Bruce Lipton's stuff and Joe Dispenza, and I've come across, EFT. Didn't have a clue about it, so I jumped on, found a chap called Brad Yates from where I was, all the way down to 0 within 9 minutes. So that for me was massive, because it was, for a day or so, when I was up there, I'd struggled to shift it. So that for me was just, it was magic. So that must be a Monday or a Sunday. On that Friday, I was training with Carl Dawson, and I'll be helping train another set of practitioners with him on the 21st in Solihull. But it was just absolute magic. So that's why I jumped in, where I started going into EFT, because I made the decision as soon as I left the army, which was no help after leaving. I've just heard 2 stories recently of, veterans, ending the game early. God love and bless them, because there isn't the support out there. There's charities making money, but they're not helping people. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole, I was, so it's absolutely massive. So then for the past 2 years, I've just been running the practice of EFT and Matrix, and then the past life Matrix stuff, because so much of that we carry over from previous incarnations, and then working up in the light Matrix, where we take things up to a high consciousness level, where we work on the ethereal bodies, where we can go into check on the contracts and all kinds of stuff, and create resources for the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So I was doing all that kind of beautiful stuff, where I came across Havening, and it's been on the periphery for a while. And I was like, I'm a purist, love EFT, love Matrix, don't need anything else. But when you start getting these signs from the universe, where it's like, I was like, okay, I've got to take a look at this. So I just started taking a look at it, and I was just like, I was just all in. So with EFT and Matrix, I was like, going from a situation, finding something, and then just diving straight in. This is, I've been studying for a couple of months, and it's absolutely unreal. So so it's just fabulous, like you say, just leading with love and kindness, because there's a lot of crazy things going on at the moment. But it's this, especially for two methods of havening I'm going to show you, because we can use EFT to go back to these earliest memories, which is beautiful. Then I'd use havening, but there's two: event havening and transpirational havening.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I'm just going to give you a quick description of both. So event havening, Andy, memory from 4 years old, wherever it may be, horrible memory, it's causing problems, anyone, these events arise through life. But the cool thing, but the thing is, those beliefs that we make in those first 6-7 years, they're going hardwired. We're in a hypnagogic state. The first 2 years we're in delta, then up to about 6-7 we're in theta, where the imaginal comes in. And then after that, we come into the more conscious reasoning, and as we're heading towards puberty and whatnot. Yeah. But those first 6-7 years, all that said, all that you encounter is going in. You're making a decision of belief, and it's going in hardwired. We're always, so on a subconscious level, we're looking to confirm our beliefs as we go through life, and not consciously, but on a vibrational level, we'll attract X, Y, and Z to us to learn from, to grow through. And you okay there, madam? Sorry, dog's walking about. So Luna, jump in your bed, sweet pea. Come on, good girl. And these will play out time and time again. So until you change, the subconscious belief in there. And this is just essentially what it's doing. But with havening, where Matrix, we would go into these memories and we would make it safe, and we'd move the, that younger expression of ourselves through that moment of trauma, whether it's tapping on them, havening, we move them through that moment of trauma, find out what the belief is, and then help them create the opposite. And, I've worked on some horrific stuff. But what's happening with havening is, and like I say, when we don't even need to tell me what the issue is. We can work completely content-free. Derek, that's a 9 out of 10. That's a 10 out of 10. Fit 20 out of 10. And okay, park that to the side. And then we'll just go on a little journey. So event havening, I've got that event. And then we'll just be having a talk. So we could talk about the YouTube channel. We could, we'd go for the alphabet, just get good, because it's in the conscious mind. And I'll explain how havening works in a minute. And we just do that, and we check back in. And what happens is it breaks down that neurological pathway. So when we encode a trauma, there's 4 things that need to be in place. We call it Emily. Sorry to any Emily's out there. So you need an event. You need it to have meaning, like a sense of loss, abandonment, whatever it may be. The landscape of a neurology, has a key part to play in this, especially, you take somebody who's been you take 2 twins, one who's been in, separated at birth, a loving, supporting, nurturing family, and one that's abusive and toxic and violent. The neurological landscape from those 2 identical beings is going to be completely different, as they go higher up, and they'll encounter different scenarios due to the encoded beliefs. And then you need, I threw myself off track there.
That's all right.
Anyway,
I was gonna ask you a bit about your journey anyway, going back to some of your journey, because your journey is always really interesting. That's led you to do the work that you do today, because sadly, obviously, what you've been through within the army, there was obviously a lot of psychological damage which you experienced, and obviously then you're awakened through the death of your partner as well. So I'd imagine, sensory based, there was a lot that was going on there that was, breaking down, what was going on in your mind, so that you could reconnect with your senses within, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Again, it's strange to say, but and anyone who's been anything, a retrospective look, it changes. Yeah, it does. It absolutely, these events change you on every level. But I couldn't be more grateful for the things that I have encountered, for the people who played their parts in that journey. Even the person who nearly, caused me to commit suicide in Kosovo, my very first tour, when it was in the Balkans and it was freezing. Never encountered anything like it. Mental. So, but even for forgiveness for him, because if it wasn't for him playing that role as that person, then I wouldn't be here now doing what I'm doing and being able to, I want to have the love and the compassion and understanding to be able to then help and guide other people through, through difficult times, so it's it is a strange odd one like that. But everything is, I tend to have a thinking of things are happening for us, not against us. Do you know what I mean? Like the universe is conspiring. And again, I do talk to the universe quite a lot. And again, for the listeners, there's a phrase I use, for almost everything, and it's absolutely beautiful because it's an open-ended question. And how many times in your life, Andy, have you heard somebody say, "It doesn't get any better than this"?
Yeah, I mean, people say that a lot, don't they? People say that. Well, it's less frequent than we'd like to think, actually.
Well, yeah, fair play. But then that's, but you're that kind of context. We understand our words are powerful electromagnetic, signals. We're speaking it out into the universe. So what I think, instead of saying that, because that's a very close question, what I'd say is, how does it get any better than this? So if something beautiful happens, how does it get any better? How does it get more loving? How does it get more abundant? How does it get more X, Y, and Z than this? And you're literally, through that, expressing to the universe to show you how does it get any better than this? I found it to be quite interesting because it does tend to bring things through rather lovely.
Yeah, that's what I love about coaching and mentoring anyway, because coaching and mentoring is all about shifting people's mindset and beliefs around, what they have in their mind with regards to any type of conditioning or whatever it might be. And just the shifting of the questions can shift their reality and consciousness around what is going on in their lives, can't it? Which is amazing.
100%. And again, reframing themselves, so changing that neurology, because they're reframing themselves on that. Do you know what I mean? And if it can reframe themselves rather than somebody else reframe them for them, it's just, it can shift mountains. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's like you've spoken a lot about the unconscious, which is fantastic. I do a lot of work around the unconscious as well with regards to hypnotherapy and other things as well. But
beautiful.
Everything exists within the unconscious, and before anything becomes conscious, it needs to happen within our unconscious first, doesn't it, really?
Exactly. It's a beautiful environment in which to go play and to explore, and see how it interacts with everything as well. And when you start to see the patterns playing out, then you can just really start to just appreciate the intricacy of everything and how everything absolutely interweaves to the next. And it's not, nothing's by accident, as it were. Yeah.
I'd be interested in finding out a bit about your psychology as well, and the shifting of psychology that you've experienced within your life. Because I imagine, like, being in the army and going through what you did there was quite a masculine energy and way of living in many ways.
Yeah.
But now coming into your therapeutic work and really connecting with your soul and living from that place of love and higher consciousness, we know that's very much the feminine energy, isn't it? But so I can see there's a good balance between you both. Well, both aspects within.
Yeah, and again, when I was in the army, it was very much that. Especially back in the back end of the 90s when I got in, it was a drinking culture. It was, if it was, again, going through basic training, we didn't have human rights at that point. It was rough. Yeah, no, and again, they count through the tours, so Kosovo's 2001, again, wearing that trauma was there. And again, so I came back on hour and I went out to go back out to finish the tour in Kosovo, went to open the door and I collapsed. Couldn't speak. I was vomiting. And again, 12:30, it presented again. It was never dealt with. Brushed under by the army, of course, but it was never dealt with by me. It wasn't until I started to settle down in 2012, after I just left a certain unnamed regiment, life support, got there and things started to quiet down, but it had a chance to filter in. And then again, it was those same somatic representations. Anyway, so Kosovo 2001 to 2002. 2003 was Iraq. 2004 and 5 changed regiments, was Iraq. So straight out of Iraq, straight back into Iraq. Yeah. Bosnia in 2006. 2007 to 2008 was... 2007 to 2008 was my third Iraq. Yeah. Then I was Afghan. then it was Northern Ireland, then it was Afghan, and UK contingency, and then obviously recycled that until I came out in 2015. But yeah, the psychology of things completely changed because it was just a drinking culture. You know, the dispensable income had a roof, had roof, food. It was just, and I enjoyed that life. You know, it was good. But looking back on it retrospectively now, just how much of just a dog's body, how much of a pawn I was, to these higher lunatics running the show at the moment, and yeah, it's come vastly different. And the beautiful thing is, my best friend in there, Pete, love and adore the guy. He's out in Greece on exercise at the moment, and we like brothers. My mum called him her third son. We were like brothers. Every single regiment we nearly did together in those times, and that's completely unheard of. And we completely distanced because as I came out, started vibrating on a much different level. We became way further apart, and he's still in that environment, and he couldn't. It was difficult for him to be able to understand and grasp where I was, but he couldn't see the journey that I'd been going through and what I needed to do to enable to survive going through that process. But you can't expect somebody who's still in that environment to be able to understand unless they have those experiential that experience themselves. So it's just that level of understanding and patience.
I think it's good to touch on that as well, because often people think about oh, will I lose people in my life as I grow and ascend? And the sad reality is in many ways you will. You grow and evolve and ascend to different levels of consciousness. And I've heard it said many times, you can sit next to a person and the person just can't understand you because you're working on a different vibration, aren't you?
Yeah. And again, that's perfect for them. You know what I mean? For their soul, their soul knows far better than we do on a conscious level. Do you know what I mean? Of what they should or shouldn't be doing. Every soul's, everyone is of the divine. There's nothing that isn't of God. Either everything is or nothing is. So even, and this, let's just pause this for a minute. Even the lunatics playing around in the world with all their little games at the moment is shifting. So they, as we say, horrific things that they're doing is shifting the course of humanity to wake up and rise through that. So on a soul level, they're playing that, for want of a better, I'm not going to swear, but you know what I'd kind of I'd be saying, those kind of people, God bless them, are still serving to raise the consciousness and to see the sick programs that are in place. All those things that are built on fear, greed, corruption, control, they're being highlighted. Hollywood is, just a fine example of the stuff that's been going on that's starting to crumble, and it is. And as we raise higher and as more people wake up and see the sickness that was there, things will shift. But honestly, what we're seeing out there is the death throes of a sick level of consciousness that had a part to play, but it's going. And honestly, I do think we're moving into a far better world, to be fair. I really do.
Definitely. And I one thing that I like to speak about with my work with regards to the soul pathway is the soul awakening experiences we have. And, collectively we're going through a mass soul awakening. And obviously that often that comes through,
trauma,
hardships, pain. And a lot of people are having to wake up through that pain, aren't they? And even you with your PTSD and what you suffered within the army, you awakened through that. And then you started shifting your consciousness, but the pain was really the driving force for the change in your life, wasn't it? Really,
cracking the egg, as it were.
Yeah. So So if we jump back into your EFT matrix reimprinting and the work you're more so stepping into now.
Havening.
The havening. Let's discuss that a bit more in with regards to the process you use in order to help people shift their consciousness and step into that place of love and kindness.
No, absolutely. So again, like we say, we'll have that little demo at the end, and when we come, but so like I was saying, we encode a trauma, and what happens is I find it absolutely beautiful, absolutely fascinating. So you encode a trauma when you're 2 years old. That same belief, that same pattern will be there when you're 98 if it's not being changed, if it's not being worked on. So what happens is, those four things are met, we encode a trauma in the amygdala and the limbic system in the brain. I love it. And again, everything's energy. So I'm not going to go. I'll get through this without going off on a tangent.
It's all good.
So what happens is, okay, I need to get something so I can actually represent this, because we've got the postsynaptic nerve, in the amygdala. And it sends out AMPA receptors. We've got all these little AMPA receptors dotted all over the postsynaptic nerve, and they're glutamate receptors. And what happens is, when we encode that trauma, they get locked into place. It's almost like that high alert threat detection system that's in there. So your child sees mum jumping because she sees a mouse or a spider. That's dangerous. Okay, threat to survival, keep that in place. Subconscious, because the subconscious is only trying to keep us safe. It's only trying to keep us happy, but it's operating from the building blocks of those first 6-7 years and all those encounters. So what happens is, itchy eyelid, PChem zeta. It's like a biological superglue, and it keeps these AMPA receptors in place. So this is what we're doing, and this is the mechanics of what we're going to do. And to get it's as simple as this. So starting at the shoulders, down the arms, you can go back up, or you can go all the way down to the hands, across the forehead, the cheeks, or you can just go all over like that. And there's no sequencing. Excuse me. But what happens is, as soon as we start applying this Havening touch, and again, it's just giving yourself that beautiful, gentle hug. It's more loving and nurturing than this big red anger in my chest. It's more gentle. Do you know what I mean? And what we do, as soon as we do that, we're creating delta waves. So the face would be 90 times baseline amplification of delta waves. The arms up to 38, and the hands are 5. So what this does, when we're applying this touch, we're generating those delta waves. Those delta waves then opens calcium channels in the brain, and we create calcineurin through the delta waves. Calcium becomes calcineurin, and it acts like a acetone for the nail polish. So it basically just takes it down. So all we'd be doing, Andy, an event. As soon as you remember that event, your neurology, your whole biophysiology it's recalling that, and your blood pH, everything, will lead back to that, to how it was in that point in time. But those AMPA receptors are there then for 7 minutes. So even if like we would be doing, we're talking about other stuff, those AMPA receptors are still in place, looking for that threat. So as we're doing this, and we're talking, and we'd go for the alphabet, naming animals, or we just go do absolutely just basically having a conversation. Nice and easy stuff, taken away from that memory. That breaks down the AMPA receptors. The AMPA receptors then that are causing this this pathology, that causing to cause this anxiety, to this depression, this physical pain, this whatever it may be. They then go back into the postsynaptic nerve. They get disintegrated and then recycled into the body. So there's no neurological connection to that previous event, time, memory, that emotion, that intense emotion that's causing problem in the present day.
Yeah.
So what happens is, as you're doing that, and you take it all the way down to 0, the person will be like, I love it. It's like, I can't see it, I can't remember it. There's literally no recollection to what they were just working on. Or they'll be able to see it, but it's way far over there. They can't, and then as we try and connect to it, it gets further away. Or they'll be able to consciously remember it, not a problem, but there'll be no emotional charge there. And I've been working with a lot of EFT and matrix practitioners who have been working on stuff for years, but it's still there at a 1. They haven't been able to clear it. So I worked with somebody who managed to get it all the way up to a 3. We really got to step inside that memory, become it, could get up to a 3. We did 20 minutes. She couldn't access it again. She couldn't step into it to even start to bring back into herself. It's a little story, quick one, of somebody I worked with recently. She came to me with, and this will explain how I weave EFT into the Havening. She came in and Dezs, I've not been able to eat for 5 days. can we work on this because I have no money? I was like, how how am I meant to work with this? So I thought, okay, so I got just to feel the body, where that energy was in the body, so where it was, the shape, the size, the color, the texture, the emotion to it. And then I got to just a little bit of breathing, go within herself, and just take a consciousness back to an earlier time in life. And we traced it back to 3 events: one at 40, one at 11, and one at 3 years old. So we always go back to the earliest. And all of these would have been a 10 out of 10. We're back to the earliest, and we worked it through. We moved on to the second one. And because we'd worked on that first one, that had gone down to a 4, where it was previously a 10. Went on to the third memory, the first, where she was 40, and that down to a 2. So we just did, and we took all those down to a 0. That next morning, the next day, I got a message going, Derek, I've just had a client come through. She's paying 50 quid so she can go and get some food. That same evening, she wins a competition to get some flowers. As she goes to get the flowers, somebody gives her a 30 quid voucher for Iceland. We have another session working on something completely different. But then she goes, Derek, I've just had 5 clients come through and I want to, so clear that, and the memories are to do with not having enough money, not having food, a divorce and bankruptcy, cleared those energetic issues, and it allowed the flow of that to come in. So it's just, some of this stuff can get quite, absolutely, it can get quite out there, but it's rather lovely, especially when you see, because the impact is instant. Do you know what I mean? It's wonderful.
And I love the way that it is the psychosensory that you speak about. Really feeling that in. It's like that loving caregiver of the unconditional love from the mother, and you connect with those sensors on your body.
That is exactly
release them, and just and allow yourself to feel into them as well. And whenever I speak about coaching, therapy, whatever coaching or therapy is, we're not changing the situation because we can't do that, because the situation always exists, but we're changing how we feel about it inside, aren't we? That's generally what we're doing, aren't we? The energy around it.
Yeah, the subconscious perception. But before going further, I just want to give a quick one, because I meant that was the event Havening quickly, because I think it'd be important for your viewers. Is transpirational. So I want you just to imagine, if you will, a big, beautiful oak tree. So that'd be the ground there, and underneath you've got the roots, and the roots pick up all the water into the trunk, the branches, and out through the leaves as vapor. What we can do with this as well, which is absolutely love and adore. So if you imagine the roots underneath, the ground level, the subconscious, you've got the anger, the resentment, the embarrassment, the fear, whatever it may be. The same neurological process of breaking down those pathways, breaking down those thought forms is still taking place. But so you're saying, just imagine I'm angry. Something's really, done your head in. Angry. And then before long, literally within minutes, you'd be like, I'm angry. Because it's depotentiating that anger, those neurons. Angry. Then what will happen is another wave of anger will come in. I'm angry, but you're clearing that. So once it's come through, it's cleared. It's not coming back. There's no neurological pathway for it to reconnect. All the anger will turn to sadness. It'll turn to grief, remorse. Or it'll just come back down to baseline and it will be done. But you can use that for absolutely everything. So especially in the moment stuff. And again, you can just do it with one arm. If you're somewhere you don't feel safe doing this. But again, not feeling safe, unsafe. I'm anxious. Those emotive words as you're doing that in context of what you're feeling, and you'll shift loads. But then you can switch in with the beautiful feelings, with the beautiful sensations. So with the relaxed, happiness, calm, joy, and again you can recycle them. But then if they're doing this, then they can go and get themselves an affirmational video on YouTube, and just the beautiful affirmations of it, and then they're just doing this themselves because they're in those delta waves, those first 2 years of hyper learning, where those things are going in hardwired into the subconscious, and they're doing this. Probably get an ad blocker on because you don't want that in the middle of your affirmational video or something like that. But you can write your own affirmations and then just read them out as you're doing this. And that is going to, again, because you're rewiring, you're creating that neurological landscape in your brain. And as you create that on a subconscious level, you're sending that out from the heart to the universe as a signal to then to be able to, it's just, yeah, I get a little bit keen about this stuff.
You know what? Do you know what I love about this process as well? And it's made me think about what we've been experiencing in the world over the past year, and still going through it now. Is the fact that we've had this disconnect from people. We haven't been able to hug or really connect or feel that human touch. And human touch is one of those things. Is completely
beyond vital.
It's immeasurable. It's so important for each and every one of us. And obviously, in order to do this, it's like giving ourselves that touch, touching ourselves in beautiful ways that are just allowing us to feel loved once
soothing
more. You know,
exactly.
And
again, on the human consciousness field, every human physical body understands this. The consciousness understands this. You know what I mean? So even, God love and bless children who maybe grew up, without parents, who didn't have, those initial, moments of having that, that love and that connection on a human consciousness field. It's understood. We tune into those layers of consciousness, so yeah, it can absolutely just, it's massive. And again, that's my thing at the moment, the kids coming up nowadays, we've had to encounter this. Again, you take that, it's just so much in the micro expressions that kids learn and grow from and make those neurological connections from. It's and again, the powers that be know this full well they do. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole that we'll leave for today.
All right, it's good to touch on these things and make people aware of our views, our perspectives, and also allowing people to have their own views and perspectives and opinions. But knowing that it's all about shifting the consciousness, loving, honor, and appreciating ourselves, and really, from your perspective with this psychosensory work, it's all about that self-love and feeling inside, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you say, Andy, because once you release that trauma, I see it almost like a D shackle on the back and a big, heavy, almost like a ship chain with a big old emotional memory boulder at the back. And once you de-link that, all that life force energy that it was taking to keep that memory repressed, to keep that energy down, it's then able to come back home to you where it belongs. It's for you to be able to then, tune it, to, take it forward into something that actually serves, instead of, depleting your life force energy, you can use it for something beautiful.
And it's good, again, going back to those events from your childhood, connecting with your inner child and that pain at which you felt inside that trauma. Because what we learned in hypnotherapy, and I did numerous different hypnotherapy courses, phenomenal, I love them. But it's all about that significant emotional event, when you connect with that big significant emotional event, which is at the core of where these emotions come from.
Everything.
The
95% of illness.
Yeah.
95% of all illnesses are related to an event, to an emotion, to a memory. Yeah. As opposed to 5% of birth genetic defects. Those other 95%, it's also, a lot of that is down to stress. And again, you look at the environment we're living in, an unhuman, unnatural environment. We evolved over thousands upon thousands of years. And you look at the last tip, look at just even from the 80s, and then go back another 80 years. All these things that have been placed and been put into the electromagnetic atmosphere, which the bodies are very responsive to. It's rather mad.
Yeah. It's good to see it shifting, though, in a way. I mean, I know we're going through these difficult times and challenging times where people have felt more disconnected. But I've found in many ways as well, like those people that are really connected with who they are, they're coming from a place of unity as well, which is all about that love and connection, but in a different way, aren't they?
Yeah. We're moving there. We are.
So, quick question as we move on and we head towards the end of the interview here now.
Yeah.
And the podcast. How can we, both individually and collectively, move into a space of more love and kindness so that we can shift our own consciousness as well as the collective consciousness?
Now, there's a million pound question, isn't it, Andy?
It is, yeah.
and again, it's all got to be at, it's all at an individual's own pace. So much will come into it, their environmental context, but if somebody's looking for that, then it's a lot of self-love, self-appreciation, taking time for the self, and finding the things that work for you, that bring you peace, that bring, if work isn't bringing you peace, find something that does, and do that on the side until you can move into it, because you'll spend a lifetime draining your life and being resentful to it. Find something that brings you passion, and just it's really reconnecting back to those early years and trying to live with that beautiful childlike wonder and excitement for stuff that we get bogged down with. You've got to do this, you've got to be this, you've got to be this, you've got to fit in. No, you don't. Be who you are, because you're the most fucking magnificent being going, and all that programming, all the people's projections upon you are the things that are weighing you down. You cut, and if you need to cut people out, cut people out. If you need to cut certain things out, do it. Make yourself that fucking priority. Excuse me, because you're going to be your longest project for as long as you live, and you deserve to have a place to live and be happy inside.
Yeah.
Don't let other people's issues, be the source of your pain. And it's just really just self-love and appreciation. And again, there's tools out there, whether it's breath work, meditation, cold showers. I freaking love cold showers. Wim Hof method saved my backside more than I can even begin to tell you. I love the stuff. Excellent. But again, this, even if you're just talking to somebody about something that had happened, that had upset you, annoyed you, whatever, and you're doing this, or even just the hands like this, you're going to break down those neurological connections, those pathways, and they're not going to be able to affect you anymore. You know what I mean? It's there's so much, again, there's so much out there. It's just finding what works for you to bring you peace, because you deserve it. You really do. And no matter what the TV's telling you, I've not had a TV for years. I'll maybe watch the odd program now and again on, on whatever. But no, it's because it's all fear-based. It's all fear-based. Put that to the side.
Definitely.
Give yourself that love, because you deserve it.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the environment, because in many ways I feel it does come back to the environment, whether it's the environment around us or the environment within us. How do we shift and change that environment so that we come from a space of love? We either feel that love from those around us, or we don't. Yeah. If we're not feeling that love from those around us, and they're not valuing us for who we are, then maybe it's time to step away from those people that don't see the value of who we are.
Yeah, I think naturally, like I alluded to Pete, and I love Pete, and he's just recently come back into my life. God bless him, daft sod. But as you tend to vibrate on a different space, people will fall away naturally, but other people will come in. And again, the more you try to hold on to the old as you're moving into the new, it'll cause an imbalance and pain.
Yeah. But it's been a beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with you today, and exploring Havening, matrix reimprinting, and much more. I think there are so many modalities out there that are so beautiful in their own ways, and it's finding in many ways what really works for you and what you can connect with. So PsychoCentral healing is phenomenal. Beautiful.
Yeah, I just love the fact that somebody can come to us, not even have to tell me what the issue is, whether embarrassed about it, whether no matter what it may be, and then within half an hour it's gone, and it's gone for life, just by doing this and having a conversation. Put it to the side. Let's not worry about that. Away it goes. I mean, it's gentle. And back again, this is what I like about it. It's gentle. It's loving. It's caring.
I don't know if we mentioned it in the interview or whether it was beforehand, but I know you mentioned about re-triggering old traumas when we have to place context around it.
Go over it.
It
over and over again. Yeah. Not the idea of the game, Retraumatization.
Definitely. Where can we find out more about yourself, your work, and what you do?
Well, I'm just updating the website at the moment to bring in, because I'm just starting life coaching and just about to get squared away with Havening. But EFTmatrixtherapies.com, or you can find me on Facebook as Dezs with a Z, exactly how it looks on the screen, actually. Dezs Greensoul. And just pop on through. But yeah, and again, any questions, just come through and just have a chat. And if it feels like a nice energetic match, then we'll go play. And obviously, anybody that comes to me for a 15-minute talk, there's always a little demonstration there. Give them one big nice win before we decide to move forward. And for the rest of May, I'm doing it on donation basis as well. So there's no fixed rate. It's just on a nice donation. And so if anybody wants to come play, I'm here.
And thanks again. What I will say before we finish the interview is all of Dez's links will be below this video for social media, his website, and any other links that he wants to share with me. So if he wants to share more information, they're all below this video. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you, Dezs, for joining me today. I love this conversation and really appreciate you being here.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care, much love, and I'll connect with you all again soon.
God love, God bless. Bye, Andy.
It's also about the masculine coming back into balance.
I had reconciled my mind and my soul.
A world opened up that words cannot describe.
But you have to love yourself. You can only love another to the extent to which you love yourself. That simple yet profound truth.